Hi, my name is Alex. This is Liam. This is another SOMASATION by Soma Coffee Company. And we're going to be talking about V60 techniques this week. This guy right here. And we're going to be looking at two different brewing methods, and why they're different, and why one is not better or worse, but why they're different, I suppose. And
yeah, it's more kind of, one that's very easily repeatable, and just kind of how to maybe fine tune your V60 to the flavour you prefer, I suppose.
And maybe just experiment a bit and try and get your coffee tasting in different ways, or how you like it to taste, or just experimenting more at home with what you already have, or getting more consistent brews rather than having a different coffee every day, but it's the same coffee that you're using.
So we're going to be using, this is pretty much a staff favourite right now,
for sure,
between the whole staff. This is the Kenya AA
most expensive as well, so they've got expensive
most expensive as well, yeah. So everyone knows they're good coffee. This one is a washed coffee from the Kirinyaga region in Kenya. So there it is there. It's got tasting notes of blueberry, black cherry, and peach iced tea, which is a strange kind of tasting note, but
that like black iced tea, and then like that sweet peachiness.
I mean, if you have a brew and it starts to cool,
great cold brew as well, actually.
Great cold brew, I mean, the more it actually cools this brew, that peach just comes out more and more and more. It's fantastic.
It's an 87 score.
Yeah, quite a high cupping score as well.
But I guess we're more talking about the method today, as well as the coffee, but more the method. So we're going to be doing two methods. One is the Kabomi method, and one is the 4-6 method. The 4-6 was created by...
it was created by Tetsu Kasuya. Tetsu is a barista. He is the World Brewers Cup champion. He won gold in 2016, funnily enough, in Dublin. It was in Dublin that year. And the 4-6 method he kind of created to fine-tune how a V60 is poured. So if you want a bit more acidity or a bit more sweetness and less strength, more strength, you just kind of alter the recipe slightly to suit your taste, I suppose.
And 4-6 means 40-60, which is 40% and 60%, and that's what we're going to be splitting the brew into. The Kabomi is a Japanese, isn't it? I think.
It's quite an old method, and it's more of saturating
the grinds,
more evenly.
I think Kabomi means depression in Japanese, which like the literal word of depression, which means a hole. So like you're creating kind of a hole, basically like a spiral hole in the coffee bed to create more even extraction. Or more even saturation, sorry.
Now I think there's a little bit more effort in that method. But the dividends, what you get back can be much better depending on the coffee and again, your own personal taste. It's a bit of an experimental method, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. Something different though.
Something a bit different.
It gets good results from home grinders as well. So if you've got like a hand grinder or not a great grinder, let's say maybe like a blade grinder, probably not. I wouldn't recommend that, but
if you haven't got a shop quality grinder, I think just any kind of home grinder, they're obviously not going to be of the same quality and get the same consistency as a shop grinder. So I think the Kabomi method is the best way to get the flavour out of that coffee from any kind of grinder that's not a shop grinder.
And this is just going to be kind of about the technique, but a few tips on how to get your coffee tasting its best at home with a V60 would be scales, bottled or filtered water, and a pouring kettle.
And a burr grinder.
So all those things will help you make better coffee more consistently at home. Let's start brewing, and hopefully you can try it as well.
Which one are we going to start with first?
4-6?
We'll start with 4-6, Okay, so we're going to start with the 4-6 method. Just grab your filter paper, fold across the line, open it up, and straight into the V60. First thing you want to do when making a V60 of any technique is to wet the filter paper. So this does two things. One, this actually preheats your brewing device that's underneath your receptacle that the coffee is going to fall into. Second of all, this actually gets rid of any remnants of chemicals that are left on the filter paper and any kind of papery taste that might end up in your brew. So we just rinse that, let that filter through, and then just discard the water. The water that we're using today, we've used from it's on our website, it's a device called the Peak Water. It's used to change the hardness and the softness of water and to kind of filter out water and just make it better. I mean, When you're brewing coffee, 95% of your brew is water. So if you start with the best water that you can, whether that be bottled water, filtered water, any kind of water really, you're gonna have a better product at the end. So when that's finished, we can just empty that and discard it. For the 4-6 method, as Alex said before, you divide the ratio into 4-6, so 40% and 60%. So we're gonna use 20 grams of coffee, and you wanna create your pours as 3 times the amount of coffee that you're using. So we're gonna use 20 grams of coffee on a medium grind, the kind of more coarse end of medium, and you wanna multiply your pours by 3 of the amount of coffee. So we're using 20 grams of coffee, so we're gonna have our pours at 60 grams. So there's gonna be 5 pours all along. And the way this method works is the first 40% of your brew controls the acidity and the sweetness of the brew. The last 60% controls the strength of your brew. So whether you like the flavor, but you just want it a little bit less strong or a little bit more strong, you can use this method to kind of change the whole way the brew is tasting and manipulate it a little bit, I suppose. So once your coffee's in, we're gonna zero the scales. Just create a little well in the middle. That'll just help the extraction and help all the coffee actually get wet and make sure it's ready for extraction. So as I said, 5 pours, 60 grams a piece, and you're gonna pour them with a distance of kind of 45 seconds for each one. So we're gonna start our timer and we're gonna pour our first pour of 60 grams. We're gonna start in the middle, work our way out, make sure all of the coffee is getting well saturated. So now we're at 45 seconds, we're gonna start to pour again, pour in our second pour of 60 grams. This will bring us up to our 120. So what we just did there, the first pour is classed as your bloom. Your bloom basically gets the coffee ready for extraction and releases any CO2 that's built up inside. So that will help the coffee to degas and let the CO2 out. So now we're at 1 minute 30. We're gonna start our third pour of 60 grams, bringing us up to a total weight of 180. So we've done the first 40%, now we're on to the 60%. So the way it works is the first 40%, the first 2 pours of 60 grams. If you wanted the coffee to be a little bit more sweeter and dial back the acidity, what you would do is your first pour would be a little bit less. So instead of being 60 and 60, you would make your first pour 50 grams and then add the extra weight to your second pour. So that would make your second pour 70 grams. That's to increase the sweetness. If you wanted to make it a little bit more, bring out the acidity a little bit more, do the opposite. Make your first pour a little bit longer and then your second pour a little bit shorter. So we're now on to our fourth pour now, bringing us up to 240. So then in your 60%, your last 3 pours, I like to start a brew where I do evenly 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, 5 pours of 60, then I would taste it and tailor the brew to that. So if you wanted to make the drink a little bit, like reduce the strength, instead of having 3 even pours of 60 at the end, you would do 2 even pours of 90. And that would just decrease the strength a little bit more. So now onto our final pour there, bringing us up to a total weight of 300. So that's 4 minutes, our total brew time. We take the V60 off, that's all dripped through. And we have our completed V60 using the 4-6 method by Tetsuya Kasuya.
Okay, so the main difference with this brew is we're going to be adding a stirrer into the mix before we add our coffee. This can be a coffee stirrer, pencil, chopstick, works quite well. So we're going to add our 20 grams and then we're going to stir in a spiraling motion to get around 3 spiral layers in the coffee bed. Just like that. And that's going to create better kind of base for even saturation. And we're going to start our timer. And we're going to add 50 grams of coffee to make sure it's all saturated, and we're going to go in again with our stir, but we're going to go the opposite way this time and in the opposite direction. And then at 30 seconds
we're going to start pouring around to make sure everything's saturated, and we're going to continuously pour. And you're going to want to aim for 60% of your brew to be in there by 1 minute and 15 seconds, which is going to be 180 grams. And then after everything's saturated, you're just going to center your brew and just going to keep the pour up, which is going to keep the heat in there. I'm just going to keep pouring, try and keep it as steady as you can. And there we go, 180 there now, 115. And just try and keep that flow the same for the remainder of the brew until you hit your 300 gram. As you can see, this brew is quite quick as well in comparison to Liam's. That's due to the bed being created like that and the consistent pour. We've got a 2 minute 45-second brew there, versus Liam's 4 minute brew with the same grind setting.
So that was our 2 brew methods. We're going to taste them side by side and but just to kind of talk about them and
talk about the differences.
Talk about their differences, yeah. So we're going to start with the 4.6, good body.
Yeah, like the only thing, like I was saying, that I would probably do with this is I'd probably try and bring that acidity out just a touch.
So that's where that method comes in handy. You can adjust it and you can tweak it. So you'd be looking to add less water at the start or more?
More. So what we did there was we had 5 even pours of 60 grams. So what I would do with the first 40%, the first 2 pours, is I'd maybe make the first pour 70 grams and then the second one 50 grams. So just to even that out. And that would just bring, the sweetness is there, it's quite sweet. I would just bring that acidity forward a little bit more in that. Other than that, it's lovely.
Clean,
I think
fresh,
clean, it's got a nice body to it, which a lot of Kenyans I don't think have. I think sometimes you get Kenyans and they're just like, really acidic, really sweet, but there's nothing behind them. Do you know? Whereas with this method, I find gives the Kenyan a bit more body.
Yeah, for sure. Now the Kabomi. Cheers. Yeah, that's really nice.
Very clean, very bright. This one has got that balance of the sweetness and the acidity just right. It's much lighter than this one.
Much lighter, yeah.
But it was a much quicker brew.
I think definitely more balanced though.
Yeah, super bright, really super clean. That peach is coming out a little bit more in this one. I find that peach and the cherry, it's just there a little bit more.
Yeah, no, it's really nice. It was a slightly quicker brew, but I think we've gotten better extraction overall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of pros and cons of them. I mean, I think the other one is a little bit less labour intensive, the 4-6 method. I mean, I've got the several pours and stuff.
It's just more for consistency, I think.
For consistency. Whereas with the Kabomi, you've got, you're standing there, pouring the whole time.
More room for error, but if you nail it, you're fucking gonna get it.
Yeah, it's it does produce this super bright, clean.
If you want to try any of these, if you don't have a V60, we've got loads of stuff on our site at the moment. We've got a load of these plastic V60s in stock. We have the V60 kits, which you get one of these.
The kits are great. You get everything you need. The filter papers, the jug underneath the server, and the server actually has a lid.
Oh, the lid, yeah.
Just to keep the heat in a little bit more. There's a scoop with it as well, and the V60 itself.
And we have a deal, I think, with that kit and a bag of coffee as well. At the moment, it's like €40, I believe. And we also have a load of cool ceramic coloured, or not ceramic, coloured, loads of coloured ceramic V60s. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, they're great. The colours are cool as well.
Yeah, it's like pink and blue and grey, I think. So there's loads of V60s on the site at the moment. If you want to try any of those at home, give it a whirl if you don't already have one. We'll
put in the bottom of this video, we'll put links to all the products we have, because we have all the products on our website. So we'll have the V60s on their own, the kits, the Time More scales. We'll put them up there. The peak water, because we use that as well.
Kenyan coffee, if you want to try that.
Kenyan coffee, we'll put that in there as well. You can get everything there. The V60 is almost like the undisputed champion.
Yeah, it doesn't have its own championships like other brewers do, but it's just something about a V60. The way it looks, the way it pours. Like, it's a classic, really.
Yeah, one of the big things is there's a huge hole at the bottom, whereas on other kind of drip filter brewers, there'd be resistance because there might be 3 tiny holes or something like that. So with this, I think you get a much cleaner cup.
Yeah.
Do you know?
No resistance.
No resistance, yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to subscribe to our channel, we'd really appreciate it. If you tuned in last week, thanks for tuning in again this week. We'll be doing all these videos every week.
Yeah, a little bit more regularly anyway.
Yeah, more
we're
regularly.
gonna
So
try and do one a week.
thanks for
anyway.
tuning in, subscribe, and see you guys next week.